fare con questo? Ah, lo devo tenere qui? Honorable President Sarkissian, on behalf of the alma mater studiorum University of Bologna, I wish to warmly welcome you. This joyful occasion was due last year, and we have waited for it with anticipation. Indeed, this visit should have happened at the beginning of September 2020. Needless to say, it couldn't, not because of the pandemic. On this day, we are all the more pleased that this meeting is taking place because we cherish the hope that this event sends a message of healing to all the projects halted by the pandemic. Honorable President, in welcoming you here, our university not only greets you as the head of state of the Republic of Armenia, the first president honoring us with his visit, but also as a fellow university professor and estimable physics scholar. Indeed, before devoting yourself to politics and diplomacy, you taught physics for many years at the most important university in Armenia, the Yerevan State University. There, in 1978, you also obtained a PhD in theoretical and mechanical physics and founded the subdivision for computer modeling of complex systems at the Department of Theoretical Physics. Besides being active as a researcher and professor in your homeland, you were involved in several overseas assignments, and I knew that we lost the occasion to have you here many years ago. The mid-1980s saw you at the Institute of Astronomy in Cambridge University, first as a visiting researcher and then as a visiting professor. You continue to be a visiting professor at several European and extra-European institutions in Russia, Germany, Greece, and the United States. As a researcher, you authored many publications in the field of theoretical physics, astrophysics, computer modeling, but also political science and transition economics. Your scientific achievements eventually led you to receive an honorary doctorate from the National Academy of Sciences of the Republic of Armenia. Your commitment to science and teaching makes you particularly close to our academic community. Indeed, not only do you have extensive experience on the matter, but you also share our same passion for this demanding job that combines the research with teaching, with the final goal of transferring and sharing that knowledge to and with younger generations. These two areas are complementary as well as central to each higher education institution, and even if your career has meanwhile changed, it is clear that you still care deeply about these aspects. Your faith in the technological progress and care for the younger people have never wavered, not even when you were called to serve your country in high office positions involving political and diplomatic activities after the proclamation of independence of Armenia in 1991 and afterwards when you were elected President of the Republic of Armenia in April 2018. Your theory of quantum politics is precisely a testimony of this union between science and political commitment, a union that you have embodied since 2000. This theory has also translated into a fervent research activity that you brought on the international scene, thanks to conferences and an upcoming book and article published in a variety of outlets. I see this theory as an invitation to look at today's political phenomena in a different light. Indeed, following your theory, they should not be considered according to a traditional vision that is no longer able to account for the complexities of our reality, but rather according to a vision that necessarily takes into account the revolutionary consequences brought about the technological progress. Those changes are leaving an irreversible mark on our lives and are closely linked to quantum physics theory. Dear President, before moving on to the second part of your remarkable curriculum linked to your political and diplomatic post from the early 1990s onwards, I would like to recall an aspect that is particularly relevant to myself and to the academic community that I have the honor of representing. It is a source of pride for us as an academic community, remembering that the University of Bologna can boast a long-standing collaboration with Yerevan State University, your alma mater. This collaboration started in 1988 when my predecessor, Rector Fabio Roversi Monaco, and his Armenian counterpart, Sergei Hambazumian, together with the Vice Rector for International Relations, signed a scientific exchange agreement. It was the ninth centenary of the foundation of our university. Armenia was still part of the USSR, and in this same room, they signed that important agreement. This gives me a sense of history and underlines once more the relevance of your visit to our institution. Later on, Rector Roversi Monaco and after him, Rector Calzolari, reaffirmed the importance of this agreement by visiting Yerevan, eventually leading to a series of fruitful exchanges between the two universities. We have been working together for several scientific fields, on several scientific fields, expanding the reach of our impact thanks to the new collaboration opportunities, such as the Web Project, the Erasmus Exchange, the Inter-Universities Cooperation Projects financed by the Italian Ministry of University and Research, and more, that continue with vitality this very day. I would also like to recall that the Yerevan State University was one of the early adopters not only of the Bologna process, but also of the Magna Carta Universitatum, with Rector Aram Simonian, signed in 1988. However, the ties between Armenia and the University of Bologna go a long way back, certainly earlier than 1988. Indeed, as Professor Sirinian will confirm in her speech later, the University of Bologna was the first Italian institution providing a course on Armenian culture in 1973. Let me name a further aspect placing Armenia closer to the University of Bologna and vice versa. Our Department of Chemistry is named after Giacomo Ciamician, an eminent Armenian scientist that settled in the north of Italy, in Trieste to be precise, and is considered the founder of photochemistry. He was also a senator of the Italian Republic and taught chemistry at our university until he passed in 1922. Finally, the last step in terms of time into the relations between the University of Bologna and Armenia can be identified in the ROCEM project, the Regional Center for the Management, Conservation, Enhancement of Cultural Heritage that started in 2018 and ended last February in what we hope was just the first milestone of the project. The ROCKEM project stems from the mutual commitment of three main partners, the Ministry of Education, Science, Culture and Sports of the Republic of Armenia, the Italian Agency for Cooperation Development, and the University of Bologna. This project managed to establish a sound network of relationships and share experiences between Italy and Armenia in the field of enhancement, conservation and restoration of cultural heritage. The Italian team, made up of members of three departments of the University of Bologna, the Department of Cultural Heritage in Ravenna, that coordinated this effort, and the Department of Architecture and the Department of History and Cultures. And I see here the directors of the three departments. And the Armenian team have both been effective and proactive in pursuing the objectives of the project, including the foundation of the center on the top floor of the National Gallery building in the center of Yerevan. This prestigious center had its grand opening on 31st of July in 2018, and both you and the President of the Italian Republic, Sergio Mattarella, were there. That was a momentous occasion for our university and our country, as it was the first state visit of an Italian president to Armenia. Honorable President Sarkissian, let me highlight the strong ties with Europe that emerged from your impressive curriculum. Indeed, in your career as a diplomat representing your state, you were ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary in the United Kingdom, ambassador to the European Union, then to Belgium, and finally in the Netherlands and the Vatican City. Your several and varied assignments often brought you to our country, leading you to make significant connection with Italy, and I hope from today also with Bologna. Such a good relationship between our countries culminated in your receiving the highest Italian award that President Mattarella bestowed upon you in 2018. There is no greater joy for us than to strengthen the friendship between Armenia and Italy by awarding you the Sigillum Magnum of the University of Bologna. Thank you.
Mezarko baron nahaga, Bolognai hamal sarana zez germoren vochchunume, je barigaluste machtum, hayerenov. Barigalust Bologna, je barigalust alma mater studiorum. Honorable Mr. President, we wish to greet using the Armenian language, since we are aware of the deep connection between the Armenian people and their language, referred to as Mezaskanch, the great wonder. We also wish to recall that it was precisely the interest in the Armenian language that prompted in 1973 the renowned linguist Luigi Heilmann, then director of the Institute of Glottology, to establish here in Bologna a chair of Armenian language and literature for the first time in Italy, as director just recalled. On that occasion, the late Professor Gabriella Uluhojan was appointed to hold it, thus beginning her more than 30-year-long academic career as professor of Armenian language and literature at this university. She is considered the pioneer of Armenian studies in Bologna as almost 50 years ago, she collected scientific journals and books and established what is now a renowned institution of Armenian scholars. Gabriela Uluhojan's primary line of study was of philological and historical nature, with a particular focus on classical Armenian, the Grabar. She always strived to develop active contacts with scholars and scientific institutions of the Republic of Armenia, and more specifically with the Matenadaran, the Library and Institute of Ancient Manuscripts in Yerevan, a place where she felt at home. It would take more time than we have at our disposal to recall Professor Uluhojan's prolific scientific activity. Nonetheless, I would like to mention an iconic moment of her life here at the University of Bologna, the 1991 discovery of the monumental Armenian map of Count Marsili, drawn in Constantinople in 1691 by the Armenian erudite Yerevan Çelebi Kömürcan, and commissioned by the distinguished Bolognese scientist Luigi Ferdinando Marsili. This precious map is more than 3.5 meters long and studded with hundreds of drawings and captions in Armenian, and it had lain forgotten for 3 centuries in the warehouse of the university library until Gabriela Uluhojan's research returned it to its identity and history. She liked to remember that when the map was opened out for the first time before her very eyes, she experienced her greatest thrill, her greatest emotion as a scholar in Bologna. Honorable President, for centuries, Italy has been a favored destination for Armenian people. From the early Middle Ages, Armenians settled in numerous communities spread throughout the Italian peninsula, where they brought and copied manuscripts, and where, later on, they printed books. To this end, I would like to recall that the Armenian printing was born in Italy at the beginning of the 16th century. Armenian people also established religious communities and developed commercial activities in Italy. The map of Yerevan Çelebi Kömürcan, which you will shortly be observing in person, is to be added to the numerous Armenian documents preserved in Italian historical libraries. These documents trace the rich history of relationships between the Armenian world and Italy. Besides the map, in our university library, many other documents of Armenian interest are preserved, notably illuminated manuscripts and numerous ancient printed books currently undergoing a cataloging process. The study of Armenian documents in Italy is precisely one of the research fields in which the University of Bologna is very active. The legacy we have received and the legacy we seek to develop is, therefore, the following: promoting Armenian studies, training young scholars, maintaining and developing contacts with Armenian academic institutions. More importantly, we seek to emphasize the peculiarities of the Armenian people who succeeded in implementing strategies for the survival of the Armenian culture in every country they lived and live today. Diasporic communities of Armenians embraced other cultures and concurrently maintained their unique identity. A harmony between integration and differentiation that appears particularly significant in present times. I would like to conclude my speech by quoting a flawless remark about Armenia made by Tonino Guerra, a renowned poet and writer from this region who was also awarded the Sigillum Magnum a few years ago. While visiting the Republic of Armenia, he was impressed by the antiquity of the archaeological finds exhibited in the History Museum in Yerevan. Hayastani Batmutian Tangaran. He was so impressed that he stated that in such a geographically limited space, it was history, or in his words, it was time that creates space. He said in Armenia, time creates space. To conclude, here at the University of Bologna, we seek to convey to our students this cultural dimension of Armenia, a bridge, as it has often been referred to, between East and West, a crossroad of civilization, a region where the breadth and depth of its history far exceed the space of its political borders. Mr. President, we are honored today by your presence at the University of Bologna, which seals almost 50 years of close collaboration. Once again, we welcome you and wish you a fruitful and pleasant stay with us. Noritz, Megan Kamjevas, Bariga Lust, Alma Mater Studiorum.
It's a great honor for me to welcome you as an estimable member of the alma mater community by giving you the Sigillum Magnum of the University of Bologna.
Thank you.
Dançunes, kachelo, vartan. Czemu zoom? There will by me pochi. Okay. I'll keep it close. Well, Honorable Rector of Bologna University, dear Professor Chirinia, dear friends, of course for me it's a really great honor to be here today. Even being here is a great honor. Not speaking about getting from university the highest order that university has, and knowing that your name goes together with great names of great writers, poets, but also my very good friend, President Mattarella, who also has received the same, and also my name goes together with the name of the Pope that has received this. So I don't know, and it's difficult to find words of gratitude and words of appreciation that are with me now. Maybe, probably, when I'm back in Yerevan, and I'll put this medal on my table, some thoughts will come, and maybe then I'll write you, showing in proper words the great appreciation that I have here. Because one thing is getting or being professor or honorary professorship in different universities, but getting the Magnum sign of University of Bologna, the mother of all universities. It's beyond any imagination for someone that had devoted even a small part of his or her life to science and education. And of course, for me especially, it's something, an event which has specific, special meaning, because we were speaking with the rector before this meeting, and I told the story that in mid-1970s, when I was a young researcher, I was honored by getting an invitation from a famous Italian physicist professor to come and visit to Bologna. But I was then a citizen of the Soviet Union, and somehow, somewhere, that invitation was rejected. And because it was the first, it left a bit bitter mark in my heart. I was lucky that in 1980s, promoted and supported by two famous mathematicians and mechanical scientists, like Professor Lagunov from Moscow State University was the rector of Moscow State University, and the director of Yerevan State University, academician Sergei Ambarsumian, that signed the famous agreement between two universities. I was allowed to travel and started working in 2 years, 84, 85, at Cambridge University with Lord Rees. At that time he was not Lord. He was the director of the Institute of Astronomy and had the chance of working with great physicists and mathematicians. So somehow my life went around university, rejected by someone to come to Bologna, and then by the design of God, or life, or political events, independent Armenia, diplomacy, prime ministership. Then I was 4 years a free person, then becoming president, and then coming back where I wanted to be in 1977. So it goes around, and you never know what are the paths of God. And Albert Einstein thought that God doesn't play, and he's more deterministic. I do believe that God really knows quantum mechanics. and it is by his design, which is a quantum design, that I'm standing now in front of you and saying thank you. Thank you for honoring me, and thank you by honoring me, honoring my country, my fellow Armenian scientists, all of those who are devoted their lives to science and education. Thank you again. Well, I was asked to say a couple of words or to make a presentation the first reaction is to speak about Italian-Armenian relations. But when I heard that Professor Shirinian is going to be there, I decided, what a waste, why should I talk? She will present everything. So she did. So thank you, Professor. And I decided to speak about something that I was thinking for years, and make a small introduction or a presentation here, which will be titled Introducing a Quantum World. Well, this is not a scientific seminar, although if there are physicists or politicians here, I expect they can argue with me. Am I right or wrong? But I hope one day I'll be able to come back here to really have a scientific seminar and to present the theory with formulas and everything, and have a debate, a heavy debate with fellow scientists. But this is just an introduction. And in fact, it's the introduction of a book that we just finished. And this is Bologna University, yes? Revolutionary. Excellent. And this is an introduction of a book that we just finished, and I say we because we wrote together with my son Haik, and it's another sign of the new world. Because I was president in Armenia, COVID, and he lives in Europe. So how on earth you two together write a book? But it's possible now, and very easy. So in this new quantum world, we wrote a book which is named The Quantum World, and we just signed it for publication. So whatever I'll say will be just an introduction. And I called it Introducing a Quantum World, and I'm going to read it, which is not very common with me. I hate reading. But I thought maybe because it's connected with this very important event in my life, I should not leave it for free flow of words, but rather write something that I can then leave with you as a small paper, not a scientific one, this one, but I can send you later a scientific one as well. So it's called Introducing a Quantum World. Dear friends, the new world order is taking shape today, but not in the way that we all think. Many geopolitical events are taking place to catalyze the repositioning of the chess pieces on the chessboard of geopolitics today. The US strategic shift to focus on Asia-Pacific, compounded by the gradual decline of their soft power since the consequences of 9/11, the continued uncertainty and indecision of the European Union as it searches for its most efficient structure and geopolitical future, coupled with fragmented values across its member states. Russia's strategy to consolidate and restore its historic influence globally, which it lost after the collapse of the Soviet Union. China's rapid expansion and influence across all corners and industries of the globe. Consequently, the international system, previously dominated by United States for the last 3 decades, is encountering the rise of the so-called middle powers, such as India, Turkey, Iran, Brazil, and others. These changes are provoking largely dormant regional conflicts to spark again and establishing a new era of conflict in trade, cyber technology, and creating more instability in the international rule-based system that was created after the Second World War. And unfortunately, one of these conflicts, one of the recent conflicts with dramatic and tragic consequences, was a conflict between my country and our neighbor Azerbaijan. And I would love to speak more about that, but this speech is not about that. Yet at the same time, a smaller, quieter, but more dramatic change has been taking place since the beginning of the century. The world has become hyper-connected through the internet and smart devices. Technology is evolving at rapid pace, far beyond any regulation or any state oversight. It's much quicker than any state is managing that. Information has become overabundant to the point where fact and fiction have become purely subjective. And the way that humans are interacting and engaging with each other has become completely new. Our institutions and the state, or the states, have become completely different to the previous century. What does this all mean? This fast-changing political and social landscape is something humans have now not experienced before. It is the harbinger of a new era, an era of quantum politics. How do these two very distinct concepts of politics and quantum theory overlap with each other? To explain where our world and international system is heading today. In the early 2000s, it became clear that the world was not only becoming more globalized and connected, it also becomes more sensitive, whereby small, localized events were gaining increasingly asymmetric outcomes due to the changing ways of how business, politics, social construct were interacting. In some cases, they were merging with each other, business, politics, entertainment. And in other cases, they were merging not only with each other, but they were creating together some new areas, merging also with other fields, such as entertainment and gaming. Well, I think it's not a secret if we look at our current political landscape worldwide, you'll find a lot of politicians that basically are strong entertainers, and they in fact came from entertaining. And a big part of politics and political debate has become daily entertainment as well. So people are waiting daily episode from a series number 2021. This was because people did not anticipate the nature's quantum power and how it shaped the rapid evolution of technology and how such technologies would come to not only dominate our lives, but also shape how we behave as individuals, as well as groups of individuals or bigger groups like states and others. I began speaking about this phenomena in early 2000s at the World Economic Forum and other platforms as something that I termed then quantum politics, to explain how politics and politicians will no longer behave or be as before, as they have been in the past, and the same will happen not only to them, but also the businesses and other activities of humans. At the beginning of each talk, I would make sure that the audience would understand what the term quantum politics or the term quantum world means. It doesn't mean that the laws of quantum physics or mechanics, quantum mechanics, should be directly applied to politics, to people or society, but rather it would mean that it is the most relevant metaphor to discuss this new state of politics and the new state of this world. It does not indicate that a politician has the same properties as an elementary particle. But it does explain how our concepts and relationships have drastically changed because of how we interact, communicate with each other, and with our institutions. Therefore, the term quantum used here should be read both as a metaphor and as an actual change taking place in our real life. The intention here is not to compare, prescribe, or enforce the laws of quantum physics and mechanics to politics or other aspects of our lives, but to use such frameworks, practicalities, and metaphorical ways to make our increasingly complex and unpredictable world a little bit making more sense. We are rapidly evolving from using only classical mechanics for centuries to using more and more quantum mechanics as the basis of our new technologies, communication systems, and the ways of interaction as a global species. Yet, it wasn't until 2020 pandemic that forced us to change our own frameworks, whether we wanted it to do or not, how we behave, how we live, how we have to design our institutions. The pandemic, the COVID-19, has forced us to rethink how we live. And a lot of politicians, scientists are speaking about the new era that the pandemic has started. I think the way I do believe that pandemic is not the reason. Pandemic is just a consequence of the changed world. Because if it would have happened 30, 40 years ago, it would never have the same scale, drama, or tragedy as before. It has the same scale and drama and tragedy because the world has changed dramatically. Crises are always an opportunity as well. An opportunity to see the world differently and make big changes, which way have been impossible before the crisis. So it forces us to rethink. Well, we go 100 years back, there was a crisis in physics, because there were events that was not possible to explain through classical mechanics of great Isaac Newton and others. That crisis in physics forced the scientists to rethink about the logic, common sense, and create new ones, which looked absurd at the beginning. Then taken and absorbed, it made and created the new world of quantum mechanics and quantum physics. Crises, as I said, are always an opportunity to see the world differently. To commence our journey using these new concepts of quantum politics and quantum world, we must start with a simple observation. And the observation is this one of them. The human race has always been a species evolving at a non-natural pace. What do I mean here? The technologies we created are a part of our evolutionary story. So we have our evolution, but we also create technologies that are becoming a part of our evolution and influencing our evolution, and are increasingly shaping who we are and who we will become tomorrow. The simple truth, a very unique characteristic of humans, both causes and solves many of the global issues we face today and will do so in the future. So we cannot ignore or take that there are two parallel evolutions. The one is the evolution of technology and the evolution of humans. The technology we create has huge impact on our evolution as well, and the other way around as well. It also begs an important question. Who exactly have we become? How have the things we have created shaped not just our lifestyle, but also our core properties as human race. These qualities are entrenched across many generations through our institutions, traditions, dictating how we learn at universities, how we work, how we govern, and how we treat each other on personal level, on group level, institutional level, national level. In other words, it shapes our education, economy, society, and politics. To explain more than you can imagine at first how we have achieved so much progress in the last 200 years, but also why we feel like we have more problems today than ever before. This is the feeling that a lot of us live with. It has shaped how and what we have learned for generations, how we have interacted from tribes to nations, from nations to states, and as well as how our social priorities have been changing to define what is acceptable and what is not. It also answers many of other questions we are all asking ourselves and each other every day. Why does it feel like we are jumping from one crisis to the next one without moments to breathe? Why do crises relentlessly overlap each other more than ever before? Why does everything seem to be happening at an accelerated pace and at unexpected moments? Why is it so hard to plan anything beyond 1 year in our life or in our business? Why are politicians so unreliable and becoming more extreme or sometimes more populist? And why are we having more division in our societies than ever before, even if the basic needs of our lives have dramatically improved? But we still think that the societies are becoming polarized. Well, in quantum physics, the questions have always been more important than the answers, as each answer is the path to a new question. So the most important thing is to ask a question and then think about the answer. Can a better understanding of the world as being quantum help us improve our lives further or solve today's complex problems more effectively? How can we improve ourselves, our institutions, and our perspectives to understand the roots of many problems once and for all? How can we identify these quantum phenomena taking place all around us that are hugely beneficial and multiply them across other aspects of our lives to derive even more benefits? Because we have a lot of benefits from real technology. So we have to understand it better to make it much more effective, larger, deeper. We are at a turning point in our history, and if we do not act now, it may become too late to solve these problems or grasp the benefits we are seeking or seeing in front of us. Yet, there is something fundamental holding us back, which could derail our beautiful story of human progress that has taken place over the last 2 centuries and especially over the last 30 years. Doubtless, through history, this ominous bell has been rung many times, yet never before has the human race been able to connect so efficiently with each other and access a vast global pool of information. This makes today's situation very unique in our history and very critical for making decisions and understandings. Like with all complicated questions, the answer may seem puzzling at first, like the answers of quantum mechanics, like the Schrodinger's formula. But when it is broken down into clear parts, you and me will feel like we knew it all along. So, in the spirit of scientific discovery, let us together start with our enigmatic hypothesis, i.e. our answer, then provide evidence to support its validity, and start a path to the new quantum world. Our increasing progress and problems in social, political, economic spheres, locally and globally, stem from the fact that we are living in a world exponentially influenced by the properties of quantum mechanics technology, whilst our perspectives, institutions, and belief systems are still organized and managed in accordance with classical Newtonian mechanics or classical life. So it's the time of change, the time of questions, and the time of answers. This statement may cause some confusion at first. What does Isaac Newton have to do with the inequality, geopolitics, financial crises of the 21st century? Why would quantum mechanics explain why we have more social unrest and increasing populism in the year of 2021? But most importantly, is this divergence something we really need to worry about? The answer is actually far simpler than it first seems and could be explained by simple observations. But that will be a theme of my next lecture. Thank you very much indeed.
Ladies and gentlemen, the ceremony is now drawing to its conclusion. Before we part, we would like to delight you with a short musical interlude. After the performance, we kindly ask you to remain seated in order to allow Mr. President and the Rector to leave the hall. Now, Valentina Gnudi will perform for us the first movement, Allegro con gusto, from Friedrich Kuhlau's Grand Solo pour la Flûte, Opera 57, number 1.